What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Disentomb, entitled The Decaying Light. This is released on Unique Leader Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very dark, doomy, apocalyptic style of brutal death metal. Yeah. To say that a band like Disentomb has been on an absolutely roller coaster ride into superstardom would be an understatement, because throughout the last several years, Disentomb have really made a name for themselves and stamped their thumbprint into the annals of extreme metal with their professionalism, their live shows, just overall creating music that means something. And to say that this band started off from humble beginnings is really something special, because of course, if you know Disentomb well, you know them for their 2010 debut full-length Sunken Chambers of Nephilim. That album was and still is something very special, pretty much straightforward, traditional, brutal death metal, done right and done properly. But then, in 2014, we really got to see who the real Disentomb were in the form of the album Misery. Man, oh man. I loved Misery when it came out all those years ago, and I still love it now. This is such a game changer of an album in terms of the music, in terms of the vocals, in terms of the fact of them having the balls to just do something different, do something a little crazy by incorporating a more doom sort of influence in their sounds. I mean, if you listen to the song Megaliths of Despair and you don't violently bang your head to that slow song, I don't know what to tell you. Of course, that in turn gave a very special expression to a band like Disentomb with the word sloom. Of course, the mixture of doom metal sounds and slamming sort of pit riffs. It just fit them perfectly. And of course, ever since Misery came out, this band has been slowly building their profile up more and getting more and more recognition and appreciation in terms of playing live shows, playing in the United States, playing internationally, touring with some of the biggest names in death metal and deathcore, or brutal death metal, whatever the hell you want to call it. This is a band that's being noticed by a lot of people, and I think this notice and recognition is very, very well deserved. But now we move forward to 2019. When talk was going to be coming of a new Disentomb record, I was very much at the edge of my seat, wondering when and how this album was going to be put out, who was putting it out, when it's coming out, what it's going to sound like, and what the next step in this band's direction and evolution was going to be. And of course, the band started to slowly reveal things little by little in the form of these social media posts, posting vague pieces of artwork with lyrics scrawled in the titles of the posts. And this kept going on and on and on and on. And it was a very slow build when it came to promoting this album. But then, of course, we got the big reveal itself. The big reveal in the form of the new album entitled The Decaying Light. A big reveal in the fact that they are putting it out on a new label, Unique Leader Records. And of course, we have an even bigger reveal with the song Your Prayers Echo into Nothingness. That really showed you what Disentomb was working on and what they were going to be all about with this album. Of course, hearing the chemistry vocals between Jordan and Maddie Way sound as awesome as they sound, the musicianship sounding as technical and as top-notch as ever, it just gave you a glimpse as to what sort of beast this band was working on. And it is with great honor and pride today that I am here to talk to you about the third Disentomb album entitled The Decaying Light. This is an early exclusive review. It's 13 tracks, and it clocks in at around 44 minutes in length, and pretty much from the minute you hear the opening riffs of Collapsing Skies, you get a glimpse of what Disentomb have been working on. I've been listening to this album a lot ever since I had the opportunity and privilege to check it out. And upon listening to it more and more, it honestly feels as though I'm listening to Ulcerate playing brutal death metal. That's what this album feels like. It feels as though this band has taken more and more steps to add a lot more depth, doominess, and dissonance in their sound. And I honestly think that not only do I think that this style works, I honestly would consider this album to be Album of the Year material. I really think that this band is taking the next steps to becoming one of the greatest brutal death metal bands to not only come out of Australia, but just come out of the world in general. Believe the hype, I certainly do. Going back to the opening track, Collapsing Skies, it starts off very slow, mid-paced, and then you hear Jordan do these really rough, rugged guttural vocals. But then throughout the majority of this album, you get more of a glimpse of what Disentomb are continuing to evolve and sound like. It's technical, it's contemporary, but it's still brutal at the very same time. Of course, these guitar riffs that you hear being played throughout this album, of course you heard that on the song Your Prayers Echo Into Nothingness, but then you get songs like Centuries of Deluge, Dredged into Existence, and then later on with songs like Dismal Liturgies and Invocation in the Cathedral of Dust. That is probably one of the most potent 1-2 punch combinations you'll ever hear on a brutal death metal record. Those particular two songs, Dismal Liturgies and Invocation in the Cathedral of Dust. It is just damn near frightening how good this musicianship is. The guitar riffs sound awesome, very well played, very well led into, just very much top tier songwriting going on here. The bass work on here is phenomenal. If I'm not mistaken, this band has a new bassist in their arsenal. I believe his name is Adrian, and he has a very, very awesome resume of bands to his credit, such as Incinerated, Involuntary Convulsion, and most recently with a band called Lurid Panacea. That band put out probably the best gore grind record of 2019, if you haven't heard that Lurid Panacea record. But as far as his work here on this Disentomb record, it is so damn good. His bass guitar playing is phenomenal. It is very audible and crystal clear throughout this entire production. Just the way that it plays and gels in with these guitar riffs just sounds awesome, and I really, really appreciate the attention to detail being done here with this bass guitar work. When it comes to the drumming, of course, this guy who plays drums for Disentomb is just continuously crafting himself to be better and better and stronger and stronger. And here on the Decaying Light, his drum performance is fantastic. His drum style ranges from being pretty much slow, methodical, and doomy to fast-paced and technical. I mentioned at the beginning of this review that this album feels like I'm listening to a brutal death metal equivalent of Ulcerate, and his drum style definitely gets those certain accents with the way he does the blast beats and the fills and the just overall syncopation that this guy brings with his drumming style. It is just so sensational, and he never lets up or has a reason to feel tired or exhausted here. His drum work is fantastic, and he really does carry this album so supremely well for the fact that this album flies by at such a really good and smooth pace. This is a fantastic drum performance. And when it comes to the vocals, Jordan's vocals, this guy is an absolute titanous monster. I mean, if you've ever met the guy in real life, this dude could pretty much lift you, gorilla press slam you with the greatest of ease. And getting to see him become an even better vocalist as time went on is just frightening and scary to say the least bit. And here on the Decaying Light, you can tell his vocals begin to get a lot more destructive and a lot more chaotic. Whether it's well worded and understandable to just straightforward, low, raw, primal, and guttural, it's just there, and he brings that wicked vocal style and charisma here throughout the majority of this album. Once again, with songs like Indecipherable Sermons of Gloom, A Century of Deluge, and of course, the 1-2 punch of Dismal Liturgies and Invocation in the Cathedral of Dust. His vocal performances on those songs are just so amazing. It is so awesome to hear him do the vocals that he does and not lose a step throughout any of the songs that are on here. And of course you end this album with the song Withering, which is like a sort of piano key sort of interlude, which I really think is a nice little touch and more of a more craziness to this band's overall themes and concepts of darkness, gloom, and Armageddon. It is just so awesome. So overall, I honestly feel that this is the best version of Disentomb that we're going to get for many, many more years to come. I really do think that this band has reached the top of the mountain here with the Decaying Light. If you have hesitations going into this thinking that it's not going to sound anything like Misery, or if they completely stripped or given away any of their sound, I really honestly wouldn't have anything to worry about. I don't really think you should be worrying about anything, because this is the classic Disentomb sound upgraded to a sound that I feel that this band will work out well for many, many more years to come. And I honestly hope that this band continues to break barriers, break boundaries, and just be rebellious in their style of brutal death metal. This is a fantastic album, and when this does come out, you're definitely going to want to have to buy yourself a copy. So if I had to think of any personal favorite tracks, I would have to say the whole goddamn album. But if I had to think of any personal favorite tracks for me, I would have to say Your Prayers Echo into Nothingness, Undying Dysphoria, Dredged into Existence, Dismal Liturgies, Invocation in the Cathedral of Dust. This whole album is a fucking masterpiece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you some links in the description box of how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the track Your Prayers Echo into Nothingness, which is currently streaming on YouTube. There is also a second track that is premiering off of this album. I don't know what song it is to be specific, but if it premieres before the time of the upload of this review, I will put that in the description box as well. And you can also pre-order this album right now. It is available physically as a digipack CD, double LP with D-side etching. There are also merchandise options available to get shirts, flags, pretty much patches, a lot of great merchandise options available. And in September, you can see this band headline the latest edition of the Bloodletting North America tour with Visceral Disgorge, Signs of the Swarm, Continuum, Organectomy, and Mental Cruelty. Like I said, this will be taking place from September to October of 2019. Definitely check them out live and see them headline if the tour is coming anywhere near you. But as far as I'm concerned, you should definitely buy a copy of the Decaying Light before you even try to see them. So again, the album is The Decaying Light by Disentomb. This is released on Unique Leader Records. Definitely go check this one out. Mandatory purchasing. And for a score, I'm going to give this the highest score I can possibly give, and that is a perfect 10 out of 10. This is the Disentomb sound I have been hoping, wanting, and wishing for, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. So if you happen to get a chance to listen to this album, if you happen to pre-order it, let me know how you're feeling about it, what you think about it, and when you do end up buying a copy and listening to it, come back down here so we can talk about it. So again, yeah, 10 out of 10, best Disentomb album to date. So yeah, I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. And until the next time, Army Hell out.